Hello and welcome to Sasquatch Talk. My name is Bradley Valentine. At the top right of your screen you have Troy Miller. At the bottom you have Dan Adams. Today we are just three guys talking about whatever we want, but we're talking about gasoline. It doesn't seem like a super interesting topic, but I promise it'll be a little bit of fun. Just a little warning for people out there watching if you don't know us. We agree with each other a lot. Sometimes we disagree. We're not necessarily here to debate or give different perspectives. We're just here to talk with each other. So I know we got some comments on our other videos like, what is this? Who is this for?
Oh yeah, what did he call it? He called us an echo chamber
Yeah, basically, yeah.
because we agreed on stuff.
Yeah,
Okay,
we're gonna
cool.
probably agree on a lot of stuff. You know, we're in a kind of in the
Yeah, let's.
firearms business, so
Yeah, we're all into firearms. We're all married to a woman,
we're
one each,
Christians.
one woman. We all go to a place of worship and
Yeah.
worship God.
Yeah.
We all think the government has far too much overreach, and they threw tea in the harbor for much less.
So we're not necessarily here to like one of us is a leftist, one of us is, you know, a right winger, one's in the central. We
Yeah,
do
it's not.
we do
It's not 40
disagree.
minutes of arguing.
No, we do disagree plenty, but sometimes
Yeah.
we're just like on the same page. So thanks for joining us regardless. I hope if you're still tuning in, you have a good time. But we're on episode 23. We're talking about gasoline.
Wow.
And I'll start with this. And Troy, I'll start with you, then we'll go to you,
Okay.
Dan. And I know this is kind of a lot about petroleum and oil, but why is it that people are like you go around and people have such a negative thought process around just gasoline.
Gas bad.
People don't like it, or they think like the oil companies are screwing us and they're billionaires or whatever, right? And maybe you guys agree with that a little bit. But Troy, does that question make sense to you?
Not really. I mean, gas is an energy. We all need energy. It comes from one way or another, you know.
If it doesn't make sense to you, have you ever heard people like rail against like the oil companies or like act like gas cars are bad? Have you ever heard that before or no?
Oh yeah.
That's my
Oh, yeah,
question.
yeah, yeah. And-
He lives in Oregon.
Yes.
That's every day.
Yeah.
So my question
And
is
every-
why?
Well, I don't know. Everyone has their own thought, but you see gas prices going up, and they're like, "Oh, the oil companies are gouging us." But when you break the price of the per gallon down, gas companies really don't make that much. You know, most of that
Here's where
money-
you're gonna.
most of the money makers come from the convenience, the food and the drinks and everything in the gas station, the store
Okay.
itself.
So I know I was giving you time to say your own thing, but there's a difference between the oil companies and the gas station itself.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
and the gas stations are basically they're the downstream, whereas the oil
Right.
production's upstream.
Some
they're-
gas stations though have their own refineries and they have streamlined the process. Some of them are able to give us a better price, right? But when you see fuel in Klamath Falls is not a good example of the rest of the country, right?
Oregon as a whole isn't.
As a whole for gas prices, right? So gas prices vary for taxation almost up to $1 from state to state, right?
Sure.
But Oregon is weirdly close to a refinery right down the road in California, but also very far from it at the same time, because if any of that is obstructed, then like they couldn't get a truck up there for gas after a bridge went out or during wildfires.
So on that note, yes, but California has been shut down a lot of their refineries. One reason
Well, not
why
not the marathon one down in whatever you call it right there.
But the Oregon actually gets a lot of their oil from Washington, which uses Alaska oil. But it's a single pipeline that goes into Portland, and then they distribute it to the rest of the state.
Which is still, it's 5 hours either direction. 5 hours from California, 5 hours from Portland.
Yeah, and last summer, there was a hack or something went wrong with that pipeline, and oil wasn't able to get into Oregon, all the finished product. So prices was skyrocketing across Oregon. It makes us totally dependent on Washington, which means that
which brings me back to my other point, though. There is refineries in Oregon because they're getting oil. They're not pumping 93 octane through that pipeline.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think they get the finished product. They're not getting raw petroleum. I think they're getting the finished product. But it's a single pipeline from Washington. If those activists in Washington want to shut down those refineries like they are doing in California, it could really screw Oregon.
Wait,
over
why
with
are they
oil.
letting activists shut down refineries?
That's what's been happening in California.
What kind of question
50
is that,
years ago,
Dan?
they had well over 100 refineries, and now they have
But
less
isn't
than
that
10.
like you can't go stand out front of like private businesses and keep people from going in there, right?
They're
They
forcing
call
the
the police
government.
and
They're forcing the government to pass these extra regulations and taxes and everything, which forces the oil companies to shut down those refineries. If they do the same thing in Washington, it'll screw Oregon over.
So I guess the question is like, why is this such a hot topic? Like, who cares, right? We need gas. We need it to fuel our
It's
cars.
energy.
Yeah. So
It's energy.
So, like, even within like 5 minutes, you guys kind of went on this thing. My question is like, why care? So that's my question, Dan. Why care?
I'll say why people care. People care because and this goes all the way back to OPEC from like 1973, right?
OPEC.
So here's an interesting thing. Taxes account for like a fifth of the gas price you see at the pump.
Okay.
Right? There's about, for the refineries and the people that make the gasoline, there's about a 40% margin for profit that comes from that, right?
Okay.
And then the rest of it is transportation and like all the storage and trucking and everything it takes to get it
That's the
there.
midstream.
Okay.
Right. So people care because if today it's $40 for me to fill up my Honda Civic Si, right, that gets 38 to 42 miles to the gallon. And next week, because this Iran deal falls through or it doesn't fall through and they now get to sell oil again. And because Iran started back in 73 with the gas crisis, 73 to 79, right? They were the reasons this whole thing started. They were pissed because we backed Israel in the Yom Kippur War, right? So fast forward to today, why people care. If it's $40 today and next week it's $80 because the gas price doubles,
Yeah.
right? Everybody's going to care because they drive to work, they drive to get groceries. The groceries that are delivered now cost double to get them delivered. And if you run a grocery store, you don't want to accept double the price for the goods delivered. You're going to be like, well, I've got 8 tomatoes and it cost me $1 a piece to get them. And now it costs me $2 a piece to get them. I'm sorry, they're $2.50 because I have to keep the AC on. I've got to keep shade over them. Just if you're running a lemonade stand or selling tomatoes or whatever you're doing,
right,
the price of business is the price of business unless you just are in it for the love of the game and you love selling tomatoes. And you're like,
so
it cost me 25 cents to sell 8 tomatoes a piece, so I'm going to do that because I like selling tomatoes.
So what you're just saying is essentially the only reason people care is like when prices fluctuate and it hurts our wallet, right? Our paycheck.
Yeah.
Yep. And the other point would be virtue signaling.
Okay.
We've already talked about that. Like, I'm a good person because I drive an electric vehicle and I don't burn gas. Well, guess what? You burn the same amount in coal.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the lithium mining is just as destructive to build batteries.
The lithium mining with all the big giant diesel trucks, right?
Yeah.
And the ships that it takes to get it wherever it's going. And then you ship the lithium to make the batteries, and then you ship the coal to the power plants to make the coal power. And you say, well, I'm against coal power. I want nuclear power.
Yeah.
That's
or wind
better.
or solar.
Okay.
Don't get me started on solar. But anyways, that's why people care, right?
Yeah.
It's either
It's
they
like-
care and they can say you spend too much money on gas and you're putting lead in the air. Well, there's lead in race gas, and that's about it. Which that's a whole topic we'll get into in a minute.
That's hence the unleaded gas at the gas station.
Yeah.
Right.
So
you can still get leaded gas. You can still get leaded gas.
And gas without ethanol too.
Yeah, we'll get into that in a minute.
Okay.
Yeah.
Before we get into the extra stuff, Troy, so there's two things. One makes sense, right? Like, and I probably didn't sound like very reasonable when I said, why do people care? But one makes sense, right? Like if I'm paying $80.
The budget.
Yeah. If I'm paying $80 one week to fill up my gas tank and $40 the next, that makes sense. I should be concerned, right? Like for example, maybe you're like, why are we attacking Iran? Because my gas bill just doubled. That makes sense, right? The second thing that I don't understand is like, I guess you could say the virtue signaling, the activism. Like Dan, you asked early, like why are activists controlling
Shutting down the refineries?
That's the part where it's like, do we really get it? Because like you think about like mining for batteries for electric cars. They're just people getting paid 50 cents an hour to dig up all the stuff from the earth, all the rare materials from the earth.
Oh, I wasn't even going to get into the slave labor of the EV market, but thanks for popping that.
Yeah, to make you feel better. I don't think there's any good answer to energy consumption unless we don't use energy, like unless we don't drive cars anymore.
And that's starving. That's not fun. There's the reason why we invented cars, to get away from horses, right?
Yeah.
It's just far more efficient. People bring up the whole climate change thing. Oh, cars emit. You got gasoline.
Yeah, you should ask them if they order from
emissions.
Amazon. Anybody that says cars emit, ask them if they've ordered anything ever from Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because then they've then ordered something that came on a big giant ship full of containers that burns more gas than if you drove top fuel dragsters to work every day and lived 80 miles away and got 2 miles to the gallon.
Yeah.
But then they bring up that whole carbon emissions. Oh, it's a greenhouse gas. It's trapping heat. Well, the heat. Yeah, but
do they use a microwave?
Right. Yeah.
Do they wear polyester clothes?
Yeah, and exactly. But it's those are all oil products. They talk about it trapping heat and the earth getting hotter, and so we need to stop using electric cars. Problem is the heat comes from the sun. If the sun
what about the company
down,
out of Mexico
it's cold?
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm getting at is, so you can get rid of the sun entirely and increase carbon emissions 1,000%. This planet would still be frozen solid with no life because there's no sun, there's no heat, right? It's the carbon emissions thing is kind of an irrelevant thing. It also feeds the plants, which gasoline comes from the plants, which grow from the sun.
That's a topic of debate. Do you believe that oil from the ground is old decomposed plants? Because I would wager that it's a product of the core and different elements as a continued process, and that oil does not indeed run out.
So then if that's the case, then the term fossil fuel would be wrong.
Correct.
Because fossils, in order to be a fossil, you must be first living. Right. And they refer to oil and coal and all this as a fossil fuel, which means under that understanding or that title, it came from plants. It came from something living.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, but I'm saying they're wrong.
Why?
Okay. So yeah, what's your
That's a
evidence
whole
for
nother that's a whole nother episode.
You can't just throw something out like the term fossil fuel.
I wasn't prepared for that. I didn't know we were going to get that deep into it. I should have been better prepared.
If that's also the case, then how is olive oil coming from the earth? It's oil from the plant, olives, canola oil.
That's a triglyceride. That's a triglyceride. Petroleum products are not triglycerides.
Sure.
Seed oil is different. Seed oil is different than petroleum.
So, Okay. Let's hold off on
Still
that
oil from a plant.
subject for a second. Let's get into the idea of like oil versus gas and oil. Crude oil, right, makes up petroleum and gasoline, and then you can get into like ethanol, corn oil. So Dan, I'll go to you for a second.
Sure.
So I don't remember when I read this, but something about ethanol, like you have to farm corn, right? To make it into.
You can get ethanol from a lot of different places.
Sure, if I'm not mistaken, a
but
lot of our ethanol comes from corn in the United States. Am I wrong?
Mm-hmm. No.
Okay.
Let me look up the percentage because they did a sawgrass deal and like all kinds of different places.
I know that they've tried to figure out different ways, but essentially ethanol is a way to like reduce our crude oil consumption. But essentially we farm a different thing, right? And like it creates farming land, and you have to pull up the crops and blah blah blah. And like there are studies saying that like ethanol actually, especially the first time ethanol, like a corn farm is planted, like that's actually disruptive to the climate more than just crude oil in itself.
You're saying that a corn farm, just farming corn, is more detrimental than just
crude oil,
yeah.
like pulling crude oil from the earth. But that that was maybe like 10, 15 years ago that I read that, so I could be out of touch on that. But Dan, you said like you want to get into ethanol a little bit.
Yeah, so ethanol, Brazil, sugarcane is the primary source, not corn.
Right.
So like ours is corn, but there's places where sugar beets is the primary source.
Yeah.
There's places, like
Russia
where potatoes, and it depends on what crop does the best in that place.
Yeah.
Right. And
What's most
for
abundant
us, we've gotten really good at growing corn.
Yes. Yeah.
The problem with that, though, is it takes land away from growing corn or other crop for human consumption, for food, and forces that land to be grown for energy or cars or, for ethanol and other uses.
Yeah.
Yep.
So then you're talking about, all right, what do we do with our land? We got limited land. We're not making more of it. Do we grow for humans or do we grow for cars?
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about how much the government pays people to not grow on land, which is actually more than they should. Because they shouldn't be paying people to not grow stuff. Here's the biggest common misconception that's going on right now in our world is that people think that resources are crazy scarce. Mm-hmm. The problem is that resources have microclimates where they're abundant in some areas and not abundant in others. And then in other areas where, say, resources are less abundant, land is their main resource, right? So until we understand that the world we live in has inherent problems to be solved and that we should solve them probably not with the barrels of guns, but by trying to work better for everyone, right? The problem is all of the governments the world around solve their problems by trying to control their people instead of empowering their people. Because people that are empowered, their government is scared of them.
Yeah. I guess I don't understand your point going back to ethanol, gasoline. Like what does that have to do with it?
Because everybody's made to believe that all these resources are crazy scarce, but the government pays farmers not to grow things. Klamath Falls, in particular, there's like 8 different farms that have hundreds of acres that get paid to not grow anything. Mm-hmm. To control the price of things.
Yes. Yeah.
I will say, though, in Michigan, you drive down any country road outside of the big cities, and it's just all corn and soybeans. So it's not
Illinois also.
They're working, and they probably get paid more growing the corn and the soybeans and whatever else they do than taking a government handout.
But that's their prerogative. I've met many farmers in Illinois, Iowa, and Missouri that have all chosen to not grow crops because it's easier to get paid by the government, and then they can rebuild all their equipment and do whatever.
I guess the question is, if it's their prerogative, then I still have a choice, right?
Yep.
Yep.
It is the choice.
Everybody has a choice. You can either let government get so big that you can't control it and it controls you, or everybody can slowly turn over, or everybody can stand up individually and be like, no.
Okay. Let's try to think about gasoline, right? And we've kind of talked about prices and pricing, and like we've talked about, like, even in the 1930s when the government paid to burn crops to increase prices because deflation was so bad. But when it comes to gasoline, Troy, like, you look at gasoline and it's what, like, I think it just dropped below $4 nationally.
Not here. It's like 460 something still.
Sure. This is the national average. In some places it's still probably $6, some places around $3.
California.
Yeah. And I guess the question is, like, when it comes to gasoline, it's like, it should technically, if you look at like inflation charts, it should probably be like $10 a gallon, right?
Yeah.
If not more, right? Especially with how much we need it. So
why do you think it should be $10?
Like, if it followed the trajectory of inflation. Right?
But why? So that's my question, right? Inflation is convoluted anyways. Like, it costs them literally $1.60 to make a gallon of gas.
It's all the taxes added on, then you got to pay for the transportation.
That's what I mean. Like, it shouldn't be $10 a gallon.
No, you're not hearing what I'm saying. I'm not saying I want it to be that way.
You're saying projected.
Yes. Based on, like, if you were to look at an inflation chart and you were to take it from 50 years ago, like what a dollar is worth now, gasoline would probably be $10, $15, right? I'm not saying it should be or like that.
You're just saying if it followed the same there's lots of things that don't follow the same inflation chart. Because if that were the case, land would cost, $1.2 million for a half acre.
Yes. So
a house would cost $980,000 for a 200 square foot shanty.
It does in California.
My question for us to answer is, if people, I'm not saying you shouldn't care about the price of gas, but I am saying when I get upset that gas is $4.50 a gallon because we're in Iran, is there some sort of perspective, Troy or Dan, that we can look at and say, like, hey, that's not too bad considering they were paying $3 in the 70s, which is the equivalent to like $8 or $9 today.
Yeah, today. Yeah. Budget wise, you look at the 70s and specifically the 80s, people were spending about the same percentage of their budget on gas as they are today. But with inflation, like you were talking about, Bradley, all the prices for that have gone up. It feels like it's getting more expensive, but percentage wise of your budget, on average, it's the same as what we were paying for in the 80s.
Yeah. And
do we just drive more then? Like, how? That's a hard thing to understand. How
the value of the dollar has dropped, so you need more dollars to get the same thing.
Yeah.
But percentage of the budget is the same.
But if the price doesn't match because if the price matched the inflation trajectory, right, then it would be a bigger bite out of the budget.
And that's what
if it were $10 a gallon.
Yeah,
that's what Bradley.
So that's what I'm saying. Either the inflation charts are wrong, right?
Yeah.
Somewhere our algebra is off.
So I think in a sense we're all kind of saying the same thing.
Just different ways.
Like gas prices have gone up, inflation has gone up, the value of the dollar's gone down. In the end, gas is essentially the same as we've been paying for a while. Maybe even cheaper, right? Probably closer to cheaper. So
yeah.
I don't know. I guess my thoughts. Go ahead, Troy.
It's so funny about gasoline. The whole industry is heavily subsidized to get it to across every corner of the country, right? That's government handouts to the oil companies, basically. But then at the end, at the pump, they're being taxed.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So you've got the subsidies and then the taxes. You got the government giving money to the companies and then the government taking money from the individual over the same thing.
Well, here's what I want to know.
Yeah.
They pay taxes on the equipment. They pay taxes just to pay their employees, right? They pay taxes to buy the fuel, to ship the fuel, right? They pay taxes at the place where they sell the fuel. You pay taxes to register your car. You pay taxes on the tires and the purchasing of your car. You pay taxes on the gasoline that you purchase to run the car, and
I pay
the oil.
taxes on my paycheck to get that I work from to get there. Yeah.
Why are the roads in such horrendous conditions? We should have flipping Formula One racetracks to get
Roads
around
made
this
out of
damn
gold.
country.
Right. That's a spending issue, not a
Somewhere the tax
revenue
dollars
issue.
are not trickling through.
We've gone over this, Daniel. We're $39 trillion in debt, and we don't know what we're doing. Okay, let me ask this question. Do you guys remember it was about a week ago when Trump was like, yeah, we've been taking...
Stealing oil.
Oil, yeah. Do you remember that,
Iran.
Dan? Trump said we've been stealing oil from the Strait of Hormuz, and we've been stealing oil from Iran during this whole conflict. Who gets that
To the tune
oil?
of like 100 million
Yeah.
barrels.
Where is that freaking oil at? Who has it?
They probably turned around and had Saudi Arabia process it into.
Well, that's what
You
I
know.
want to know. Like, who has it? Like, do the oil companies have just some free oil that Trump gave them? Do the Saudis
Trump
have,
oil.
Yeah, like Trump, where's that oil at? Why was it still, I know it's gone down now that there are peace agreements being signed, but
Yeah, we'll see how long that stays in
This
effect.
isn't the first time oil's been stolen from that. During OPEC, back when Iran was mad at us for backing Israel, we stole oil then too, and so did everybody else.
I guess my question is like, where the heck is that oil at? Where's it at? Who gets it?
DB Cooper has it, and he's sitting on it.
DB Cooper.
Flying in with a barrel
DB
of oil
Cooper,
on his
Elvis.
back.
Yeah, DB Cooper, Elvis, Sasquatch.
Oh my
They're driving
gosh.
around diesel on straight oil on Israeli oil.
Okay, let me ask you this for people who don't understand, and I'm not sure I fully understand, and maybe you guys don't either. But we have what? Oil reserves. We have oil.
The National Oil Reserve. Yeah.
We have some in Alaska. We have some in the Gulf of Mexico. Obviously, the
America, Gulf of America.
Gulf of
Yeah.
America.
Can you please call it what it's
Sorry.
rightfully called, please? I just swam in it last week, so.
I literally forgot. We have.
That's why inflation's so high.
We have. Is that all the oil we have in the U.S.? The Gulf
No.
and Alaska. Where else do we have it? Specifically in the United States.
There's a lot.
I think
off of
it's somewhere in
California.
the Midwest.
Okay, the Midwest. Oh, like pulling oil from the ground.
You got your fracking.
Yeah, like the
stuff
Dakotas.
Okay.
Too. Mm-hmm.
So then you have the Middle
Oh, and
East.
don't
oil.
forget Tejas.
Texas has oil too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oklahoma. Yeah.
So, okay. Well, like, let's talk about like the government overreach, right? Because we have our oil that like companies dig. Like there was the BP oil spill in like 2010 or whenever it was, right?
The horizon. Yeah.
Like where is that level of like how much the oil company controls, how much the government controls? I mean, we have no say, right? People like you and me or people listening, we have essentially zero say.
I
in
thought
this.
we do have a say. We could just go stand outside the refinery like they do in California.
we can be an activist, but we have no say. So I guess I'll go with you, Troy. Like, what's your perception of like what control the oil companies have versus the government? Like, because people say we're capitalist, right? It's a private, like we have private businesses running this thing. Where am I wrong? Where am I understanding this?
I wouldn't say you're wrong. I think it has to do with the regulations. Instead of the government outright owning the oil companies, they say the private citizen can own these companies, through stock market, all of that. But then if you're an oil company or you're in certain industries, you have to abide by all of these government regulations that are in place for safety and environmental costs and everything. So that's the government's control. But then the oil company gets to control essentially where they're drilling for oil. They have to get a permit, which is control from the government. But they're still owning the equipment. They're still owning the process. They still get to process it the way they want to. You got Chevron with Techron. You got Shell's other proprietary. You're right. All of these companies have their own proprietary means of processing it. But it's regulated by the government. So I think that's where the control is. You got the regulations from the government, and then you've got the ability to produce it. That's being controlled by the private market or the company.
Dan, what say you? Because based on what Troy's saying, he's saying, well, it's pretty much private equity, and then the rest is, maybe private equity isn't the right word, but it's private, and then the rest is regulations and taxes. What do you think?
Well, depends on how much the lobbyist has pull with whoever's making the things, right? So when you look at California versus Texas, California, your stuff has to be CARB certified and your stuff has to meet certain things, and you can't get rid of this that way or this the other way, or you got to barrel it, and do whatever with it. And different states have different requirements, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because states' rights issues and federal regulations, and while it has it has the appearance of a free market, the EPA can shut down a refinery, right? So, is that really capitalism? I think it's more socialism.
A big difference between the two is the private property.
Yeah.
In socialism, there is no private property, right? So you can still own the oil company, but you have
is
to
it
abide
really
with the
private
says.
property if a government agency can shut you down and not let you operate?
If you're earning the profits instead of the government.
But they're paying they're paying the government with the profits, though. They have to pay them.
I think I have a middle ground for us. I don't think we're capitalists. I also don't think we're socialists. We're not just like this free markets can do whatever they want. We're not that.
Cannot.
But we're also, like Troy said, we're not the government owns the market. I think we're our own economic system that's can't be defined through capitalism.
Would you say that we're a
socialism.
hodgepodge of different systems and nobody can really nail down exactly what it is because of the government overreach?
Exactly.
But the thing is, you need that government overreach, right? Because without that, you get people dumping millions of gallons of toxic waste into rivers, and you go to swim one day and your kid dies or your dog dies because it swam in the river. And then you're like, what the crap? So you go walk in the river, and then you see a pipe, Well, you can either tape dynamite to the place that's dumping the waste in there and kill all them, or you have some sort of entity that makes sure that people aren't dumping raw waste and hospital sewage into the friggin' place where you want to go cool off in the summertime with your kids.
So I think we can agree there. I don't think we're capitalistic. We're closer to capitalism than socialism, as in who owns the market. But it's not just a free market system. We're just like the market will take care of itself.
Yeah, no, that's not the case.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe I'm on a different page than you two, because I feel like most people look at oil and gasoline and think one of two things. Like, the government's involved here and they're screwing me over with gasoline prices. For two examples, one is obviously the most recent one, Iran, right? Gas prices skyrocketed. They more than doubled.
Yeah, they went up more. They went up more than the 73 to 79, where it went from 60 cents to over $1. Which is, Brad, if you remember, our dad used to tell this story about when he came back from Germany from being in the Army. He went to the pump and slapped a 5 on the counter after paying for gas, and the dude chased him out with a gun, said, "Hey, you're stealing gas. gas has doubled since where you been.
Yeah.
Right. So he was used to paying like a quarter and now
Sure.
it's 50 cents or something like that, you know?
Well,
And
so my point was the second thing the second most recent one is, I don't know if you guys remember this, gas skyrocketed when President Biden was in term, and then there were the stickers of President Biden saying I did that.
Yeah.
And
yeah, they have Trump ones too.
Yes, yeah. So like we blame the government, right? Whether you love Trump or hate Trump or whatever, like you may blame Trump, you may blame Biden, right? And maybe both
The
of them.
ultimate reason is because of a decision of our government, the gas prices fluctuated.
Exactly. That's the idea. The second one is like a conversation I'm just sick of having, not with you guys, but in general, is like evil, rich billionaires shouldn't exist, like the oil companies. It's just like, I'm sick of it. It's not a productive conversation. I really want to get...
It's not, but you should be able to work hard and make money.
And you can. And billionaires aren't taking that away from you. Anyways, my point is, we get to that point of the government. Like, how can the government control what we spend at the gas tank? And at what point do we care enough to say, like, I'm sick of your government decisions. I'm sick of the decision making of politicians because it affects my wallet. Like, 1 month I may be paying $80 to fill up, the next I may be paying $45, right? So I guess my point is, like, how do we solve this?
Well, we did it once before, and it was called the Tea Party. We were sick of England taxing us out the nose, right?
Yeah.
Out both ends. So we threw all their dang product in the harbor, right?
Yeah.
The problem
started the Revolutionary War.
Everybody's so lethargic. That's why I don't really have a beef with them, you know, shutting down a refinery by doing what we do best and not taking it. You know, if let's say you live in a block of the three of us live on one side of the block and three people live on the other side of the block. And one of them is sick of seeing us cart guns in and out of our house all day long. They're just tired of seeing it, right? Because they watch The View and they know that AR-15 rifles are the reason that all the schools get shot up. You know?
Automatic rifles. Yep.
Yeah. We
Assault
are the scum of the earth, and we are the reason that the U.S. is in the predicament it's in with this gun crisis.
Okay.
Manufactured,
What
right?
are you saying?
Here's what I'm saying. Do they have the right? Because should they have to either A, move from the house that they've worked really hard for, or B, be able to confront us and make us put them in cases and have to do it so that it's not bothering them out their front window. But we exist in a community together.
What's confront mean in your mind?
Like,
So I have
do they talk to us and ask us first, right? Do they have a duty to peaceably come to a resolution, or do they get to use whatever means possible, possibly buying a gun and making us not use our guns to and from our cars?
I have a story for that very situation. So, you know, you guys know I got my FFL. It's at the house, right? In order to get it, I had to get a home occupation permit, which basically told the county that I was having a business out of the house. It was an FFL. But they sent a letter to all of my surrounding neighbors telling them that I'm getting my FFL, and that they had something like 30 days for a hearing period, something along those lines. I didn't have any issues with any of my neighbors, except for one person, not really an issue. But before I applied for the FFL, she was happy. She was friendly. We were talking. After it was issued, she got that same letter from me, from the county. She's been totally standoffish, totally. I've been
because the county alerted her for a second time that you were getting an FFL.
Yeah, but it was all about the firearms business, and she seemed kind of alerted by it. So what you were going at the same time, the county, there was no reason to not issue it. So they had to go through the rules and open up that 30-day hearing period for my neighbors, but there was nothing that she can do about it. I passed.
Well, she
everything
could go
else,
to
all
that
the other
thing, right?
And
She could go to
did,
that
but
hearing.
it was more like calling into the county and voicing in your thing. It wasn't an open hearing to the public.
Right.
And she did, but there was nothing that the county could do to stop it. I passed all the other regulations, satisfied everything else that was required, and
So I guess
Right.
Daniel's question
so
is,
she has
should
to
she
move
then
then,
be able to
right?
kill you, to stop you
Right.
from doing
Yeah.
it? Yeah.
Right.
But she's been standoffish and not so much intent or hostile towards me, but she hasn't shown any inclination to move. So you just kind of put up with the neighbor for who they are
I guess
until
Or
you
she
get to a
could
breaking
move,
point.
right?
Until you get to a breaking point and then decide to move. Yeah.
she could
But the
move.
other thing she could do is like go through all the rules and make sure that you're adhering to all of them, right? From what she can see.
Yeah.
And if I am, there's nothing she can do to stop it.
Right.
So
Which does that make us more free or less free?
So are you
I don't
saying
know. I'm
are
not
other
confined by a
people's
job,
freedoms
so I'm more free.
preventing us to be fully free?
Right, because you have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right?
Yeah.
It's that's in the Declaration. You don't have the right to pursuit of happiness. There's nowhere in the Constitution that says that. But I get your point. I guess my point is like, are you saying that like the only answer is just death? Like we just kill, like until we get our way? If other people's freedoms are blocking our freedoms? Look, what are you saying, Dan?
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, where you got to draw the line somewhere, right? That's what I'm saying. The original question was, right? Are we already covered that we're not a free market.
Right.
We're not socialists and we're not capitalists.
Yeah.
Right. But our question is, you were asking, why do we care about the price of gas, right? And then we got to what the president and the government has done to defeat our budgets, right? At either a whim or it's under the guise of, man, we don't want Iran to have plutonium or whatever it is,
Uranium.
So then we don't, well, you use uranium to get the plutonium, but whatever the case is. So we don't want them, right, to have big, giant nuclear weapons because throughout history, they've consistently been very upset with us backing Israel because they don't want Israel to be a nation, right? So as we follow this chain down, we're talking about neighbors and who has the right to what and why we should care.
There's such a stretch, Danny. You're making you're starting here.
I'm trying to narrow it down. I'm trying to narrow it down, man.
That's the biggest stretch I've ever seen. I'm talking about the top of the top, and you're like, if your neighbor does something you don't like, how do you stop him? That's
no, and I'm not saying how do you stop them. I'm just talking about how we exist as a nation, right? Supposedly, you can just elect elected officials to change the course of things. Like if there's a guy running for governor, right, or running for representative, and he's like, you know what, I think that there should be a cap on profit margins for oil and gas.
Sure.
Right? And everybody's gonna be like, yeah, oil and gas companies bad, Ronald good. Right? Ronaldo. I don't know what his name is. But that's the guys that we as Americans operate under, and the reason why we pay our taxes and pay the stupid price at the pump. Let's talk about alternative fuels for a second. You could pick up sticks off the roadway and make your car run off wood gas and not pay gas pump prices and only use oil for lubrication, right? Because your engine needs oil to run or it'll seize up, right? You could run your vehicle off of wood gas and not pay road taxes. You could do that.
Okay.
You could even go to the FEMA website and download the plans for that.
Okay.
Right? So, but it takes more work. So, the reason why we should care about gas prices is because it's a convenience fee.
Mm-hmm.
You would say, people would argue, either gasoline is a necessary thing, like we say electricity and water is, right? And then they lump gasoline into that because it's a energy source, right? But the fact of the matter is, you could try to find a job closer to your home and walk to it every day. Then you wouldn't have to pay for a gym membership, right? It takes more time out of your day. It might take you an hour in travel time, but you're free to do that. So technically, if we're going to break it down, gasoline, the price, the reason it is what it is because it's a convenience fee.
Let me ask you this. Troy, I'll go to you for a second. And Dan, think about this. Let's say over the next 6 months, gasoline jumps to $10 a gallon. We have to go back to Iran because of some other thing, blah, blah. We still haven't gotten the nuclear waste, for the third time. How much do you think people would be buying? The same amount? 75% of what they were buying of gasoline at $10?
Gas?
Yeah. It goes $10.
If we're going $10, right? National average $10 a gallon. That means some places it's 8, some places it's 12.
Right. What do you think, Troy?
Right?
Would we still be driving our cars around?
Yeah, I think most people will still drive because they want to get to work, school, play, all of that thing. They might cut back
you'll see
on leisurely travel. Yeah, you're going to see carpooling. You're going to see cut back on leisurely travel. But it's not going to stop people's lives. If they want to go visit their family, whether it's an hour away or 20 states away, I think people will still go do that. My wife and I are planning a big trip, and we're going to go kind of regardless of what the gas prices are going to be. It's funny going from Oregon heading east. It's going to progressively get cheaper, regardless of what happens to the gas prices. Because it'll always be more expensive in Oregon as compared to going east. But coming back, it will get more expensive.
Right.
Here's a little interesting factoid to that. Sorry if you were. Let me let you finish first.
Yeah, I'm finished.
All right, Dan.
Sweet. 1973 to 79, right? Not only did gas go up more than 40 cents a gallon, but locking gas caps sold the most they've ever sold.
That's funny.
And they
limits.
said, what?
There were
locking
limits on
gas
how much
caps. No, locking gas caps on your car.
That's what I'm getting at. There were limits to how much gas a person could buy. So people, when they are above the limit, they were going and stealing. So people were buying the locking gas caps.
And that was a 40% increase. Not a 50% increase, not 100%. We're talking 100% increase here. I think you're going to have to be sleeping on your roof to keep people from stealing your gas. Or you're going to have to drain your car every night and then refill it every morning and only put the precise amount in that you want to get to where you're going, because people steal for way less.
That's an interesting perspective. So you're saying
that's a good point.
Gas doubles. We're going to go back to what we did 50 years ago.
I'm saying
in the 70s.
Homicides double. Gun sales quadruple. Ammo runs out. You're looking at
2020.
Just shy of a collapse of society.
Okay.
Like 2020.
Okay. You know what? I like that perspective. I guess the question is, let's think about how much you would drive, though. So, Dan, you brought up a couple points, like maybe people would carpool more. Would people change their vacation plans? Like, what do you think people would do? Because Troy's going on vacation regardless of the gas price, right?
I think we say regardless, but there's going to be a point where you're like, we might not go.
Yeah.
No, we're going. I'm going on this trip.
Okay.
So if it costs you $1,800 now to drive, right? And gas doubles, like what we're talking over double, a 112% increase to $10, and your trip goes from $1,800 just for the fuel to 3,600. You're still going at 3,600 on fuel?
Yeah, because the value of seeing my family is far greater than the value I'm paying for gas.
You wouldn't fly instead or take a bus?
I don't like flying. I'm not taking a bus. It's not the act of flying. I just don't care for airports.
So where's your price point? $5,000? You'll spend $5,000 on just the fuel? That means your trip overall cost $8,000?
Yeah. So eventually...
Yeah, it's not going to be that much.
Eventually...
But,
you would say, like, well, I can't do this. If gas was $100 per gallon, obviously you wouldn't be able to go.
When it hit in the 2004-ish era, when it hit 380 something a gallon, they said that the traffic dropped by 40 something percent.
Mm-hmm.
The first time we had a big gas bump in the 2000s. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There was commercials for carpooling. That's when the HOV lanes really started.
People were trading in big SUVs for more efficient vehicles, smaller cars. Hybrids were becoming more popular at the time.
Yeah.
But
we saw a big change in
those were short-term changes because now every car is a SUV again, and gas is more expensive than it
the big vehicle.
Well, not every car, because the Civic is still out there.
Sure, but I mean, like, you go to Chevy's website, they don't sell sedans anymore, right?
Same thing with Ford.
They have the Spark.
Well, okay, that's an electric, non-electric cars, right? Like gasoline combustion engines, they don't sell. Like, you can buy the Corvette for $100,000, but you can't get a Malibu, Impala, whatever. You can't go buy a regular car from Chevy anymore.
Brand new.
Or Ford, right? So anyways, my point is, like, so Dan, what you're saying is, like, yes, maybe we adjust. We're like, oh crap, like, maybe I won't go out as much. But I do think that we'll kind of just readjust to the cost of gasoline, right?
Yeah, like we're a single income family, and we definitely say, all right, that's which store is the farthest, right? Where do we need to go? You map your route.
Yeah.
Do either of you guys just, like, you go to one, you're like, oh crap, I need to go over there. So you drive back across town. You're like, oh crap, I need to go back over there. So you drive back across town. Or do you map your route out, do a little loop, and get back home?
A little bit of both.
Yeah, a little bit of both. Like, if I'm planning for efficiency, I'll do the mapping route. Otherwise, we're driving where we're going.
But you're both dual income households.
No, we're not.
Well, okay, you are not.
Yeah.
But Troy, you kind of are, right?
Yeah, we each have our own incomes. Mm-hmm. We each pay for our own gas and all of that.
Yeah, I guess my point is...
we have, like, one single income, so I don't know.
The amount of income, I think, is important because, like, if you don't make a heavy income, a lot of people don't even have cars, right? But what I'm saying is the society as a whole, not just like individual people like you and me, but we will adjust and we'll kind of shift back to driving around all the time. It's not like we still have millions and millions of cars on the road. Most of them are SUVs, right? Or trucks of some sort. They're getting bigger. Yes, maybe our technology is a little better at fuel efficiency, but, you know, it's not changing.
It could be so much better, though.
Sure. Yeah.
See,
boy.
I know Dan has.
Dan
and I have had this.
Yeah. Oh, I know. We have 3 minutes left.
Can I
Troy, make your final statement.
I will say, usually when things get more expensive in prices, that's when other people are more motivated to create some sort of alternative to either drop the price or have an alternative for, in this case, transportation. The electric cars have become more popular up until recently. But when gas and oil has been getting expensive, like in the Iraq war in the 2007, 2008, it was $150, $160 a barrel. Mm-hmm. And now it's 80 or 90, even with this Iran crisis, right? At that time, though, that's when there was more research going into ethanol to help dilute or extend the gas reserves. There's been companies doing research into algae production for gas and oil.
Right.
Right. So when the prices go up, there's motivation to put more resources into it to develop something else, an alternative. And that's always been the case, regardless of the industry, regardless of what the product or resource is.
Dan, we have about 90 seconds. You got 50 seconds to close us out on these thoughts.
I'll say this. If gas is $10 a gallon, everybody's checking their tire pressures, or at least they should be.
Fair enough.
Tire pressures is huge. That's the best way you can save money on gas. Do your trip routes, right? Even now, that's good advice for anybody listening.
Yeah.
Right? Keep your oil topped off at the right level. Keep your tire pressures at the right level, maybe a little on the high side.
Yeah.
Make sure your vehicle's in good repair. But at the very least, I hope that the gas prices going up and down helps people to maybe reevaluate and think a little bit more about, are we a free society? Do we are we happy with the illusion of freedom? Or do we want to have better choices and better things? Or do we have the better choices and better things now?
Yeah.
And it's not an illusion of freedom.
I like it. That's all we have. This is Sasquatch Talk.